limbic system is a relatively uh, large system that is crucial. The kinds of things this system is involved in include learning, memory, emotion. We're going to cover three parts of the system: the limbic cortex, the hippocampus, and the amygdala. The limbic cortex is also known as the cingulate cortex. Let's take a look here. Let's start with the cingulate. Now, we can divide the cingulate into the anterior cingulate cortex and the posterior cingulate cortex. Now, the posterior cingulate cortex is the central hub of what we call the default mode network. If you look at these fMRI slides, random study, I can't even recall which study I got this from, but it doesn't matter for our purposes. You see the hot spot, the hottest of the hot spots, is in the posterior cingulate. So, what is this default mode? Well, the way you get these data is you just have the person lay in a scanner and don't do anything in particular. Just like if I asked you to go lay down on a bed somewhere and do whatever. No phone, nothing to engage you in that way, just lay there. Well, you go into a mode of self reflection, reviewing your day, your life, maybe thinking about future plans, maybe fantasizing, maybe daydreaming. So that's what we can ascribe to the default mode. And as you can see here, the PCC is the a key, at least we can say a key component of the default mode. You know, I want to say a word about this. If you think about your experience throughout the day, most of the time, I would argue, you're in the default mode. Yet the vast majority of neuroscience research is on what we might call the task activation mode. Just a word to make you think about what are we studying and what are we missing. Because this is relatively new within the past 15, 20 years that we've been paying attention to this. And it's tricky to study, but the importance of it, I think, is going to be tremendous. All right, now let's talk about the ACC. The ACC is involved in lots of things. Let me just list a few: pain, both physical and social. This was work that came out of UCLA, right? Dr. Lieberman and Eisenberger. They did a study showing that if you are put through social exclusion and you get your feelings hurt, the anterior cingulate activates, much like it does if I kick you in your knee. Although that would be sort of a social pain as well, because you'd be wondering, why did Professor do this to me? That's mean. Let's think of a more, uh, a less social example. If you hit your knee on a chair as you were getting up to leave. But more broadly, I think of the ACC as a key what the F area. What I mean here is really almost anything that gets your attention will activate ACC. Almost anything. The way I think it is you're going through your day, you're running through script after script. I don't mean literally TV scripts. I'm talking about in psychological terms, your script for a day or your script for, oh, it's hard nowadays, but let's pretend you went out for breakfast. Your sort of script for what happens when one goes out to breakfast. If something outside of that normal expectation happens, you're very, very liable to see ACC suddenly activate, as if to engage your activation network in solving the problem at hand. Now, what I'm showing you here is activation caused by a task called the two back. All you need to know is that this is a challenging working memory task, the kind of task where you have to hold information in your mind and use it to solve problems later on. One of the things these are not great images for what we're looking for, but one of the things I'd like to indicate is that the ACC, we're close, is a key component of this task activation network. And you tend to see it in lots of different kinds of studies. Now that we've talked about the ACC's role in pain, you could refer back to this and analyze what the ACC is doing. So the ACC should activate once something becomes notably noxious. Now the ACC, let me see, did I include this slide? I did not. The ACC is one of the key areas where we have a high concentration of mu opioid receptors. And this is one of the key sites of action of the opioids. And this is one of the key, by the way, so is this fella that we're going to talk about soon. But one of the key effects of opioids seems to be not that the pain is gone, but rather the person doesn't care nearly as much about the pain's presence.